Good morning, everyone. This is Ron Visconti with Phase 2 Careers, and we're pleased to have Jenny Harris in a couple of minutes, and Marissa is also on board. And so we have a lot to cover today. It's networking with LinkedIn. And if you're new to Phase 2, we are a resource for the over 40 worker. We've been around since 2010. We do job search, career development, and small business programs. We've got a lot of activities coming up in the next several weeks. Matter of fact, I'm going to make a little pitch right now. If you're in an interviewing mode, please come and sign up for our mock interviewers. We do this 4 or 5 times during the year. It's going to be a free service next Tuesday, and we want to make sure that you get some feedback from lots of HR people. So that's a great program and a great feedback, and everyone that participates really loves it and has said it's invaluable. So do sign up for that right away, because once we reach our quota, we'll just that will be filled and we won't be able to take anyone else. So that's next Tuesday. And tomorrow we have a different program called Let's Talk About Your Job Search. We wanted to do a rather informal program about job search to hear what's going on in your job search. I'll have a panelist who will be present. Marissa will be with us getting her master's degree and has lots of information and tips. And it's more to be an interactive session with you about your job search. And then we have a large event at the end of the month on professional women returning to work. So a lot of things going on. Feel free to engage us and to write to us if you have any questions. So I want to tell you a little bit about Jenny. How long have I known you, Jenny?
Forever. I don't know. Probably since you started.
Yeah, I was thinking that. So probably about 11 years. And Jenny's one of the nicest recruiters I've ever met. She's just super nice and super knowledgeable and really wants you to get it. So she's one of the most knowledgeable people I know on LinkedIn. You could see from her profile, she's hired more than 3,000 people. She's worked in all kinds of industries, all kinds of functions. She's been a career coach, helping people with networking, interviewing, negotiating, all kinds of tasks. She's a frequent speaker at places like C6, EDD, Phase 2 Careers, Silicon Women's HR. I can't think of a more appropriate person to give a very detailed talk about LinkedIn and how to use it to maximize your networking. By the way, we're going to take questions throughout, but if maybe every couple of minutes we'll ask for questions and Marissa will feed you some questions. So at this point, I'd like to hand over the realms to you, Jenny. I'll let you share your screen and you could share your slides. Jenny Harris. Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you. Thank you, Ron. It's great to be here. Let me share my screen. And if I'm going to say right up front that I encourage questions, because it's very important for me to know that that it's useful information and that you understand what I'm telling you. So feel empowered to ask questions. Also feel free to connect with me. Let's get started.
And then you generously mentioned after the program will make the slides available to everyone.
Absolutely. And there are other presentations that I have that are downloadable from my LinkedIn profile if you connect with me. So I encourage you to download those as well, if you'd like. So let's talk about why people use LinkedIn to network. People use it because it's the world's largest professional networking site. I can tell you as an employer, it's probably, I get 50% of my employees or my candidates from LinkedIn. Even if you're not in job search function, it allows you to find people to connect with, to build your network. Networking is not just about finding a job. Networking will provide you all kinds of career development opportunities, including how to do your job better, who you want to work for and who you don't, what kinds of trends are coming in your industry. So you want to always build your network. The other great thing about LinkedIn, it's a great way to collect information on companies you want to work for and to network your way in. So we're going to talk about how to build your LinkedIn network. First, we're going to talk about why you want to do that and then how to do it. So some of the things that you can do, excuse me, I need to blow my nose for a minute. Some of these things are things that you can do outside of LinkedIn. One of them is to create a custom URL so that when you direct people to your website, it's not a big, long alphanumeric equation. You can put in something that's going to be easy for people to remember and to look you up from. And the great thing is once you do that, you can put it on your emails as a way to drive people to your LinkedIn profile. So I'm going to show you how to do that in detail. LinkedIn allows you to download your email contacts and shows you who's on LinkedIn that you may not know is already on LinkedIn. So I'm going to show you how to do that. We're going to talk about looking through the people you know section to easily find people that you might want to connect with. And we're going to talk about LinkedIn Open Networkers or Lions. And the last part is we're going to use the job search function on the LinkedIn homepage. So these are the things that I want you to learn and you can take with you. So first, let's talk about your visibility. Why is your visibility important? You can't be hired if you can't be found. So there's two halves to recruitment. Half of it is you're applying to a position. The other half is recruiters like myself looking for qualified candidates. So if you're not visible, then you eliminate 50% of your chance of being hired. I'm assuming that most of you are here because you're either looking for work or you're looking to expand your network, and all of that's driven by your visibility. Make sure you're visible. You can't be hired if you can't be found. You can't be hired if you can't be reached. So I'm going to talk about a little bit about your profile just to make sure that you're reachable. A great example of being visible, getting you work is I started a new job today. And how did I get that job? I got that job because a recruiter found my profile on LinkedIn. So it does work both directions. So you want to make sure that your profile is visible to as many people as possible. And you also want to make sure that you add a way to reach you on your profile that doesn't require a paid membership, because many recruiters do not have a pro LinkedIn license, and therefore don't have free email. You want to make it as easy as possible for the recruiter to be in contact with you after they've found you. If I have 10 qualified candidates that I'm going to be screening to see if they're available, and 3 of them don't give me their email address, guess who's probably not going to be contacted? So you want to make sure that you put a way for people to reach you right in the very beginning. So here's an example of where I have mine. This is where you can list what parts of your profile are available to be seen through Google searches or Bing searches. So you want to make sure that your profile is on and that you list the things, as much open as possible. Here's where we put in the information to customize your URL. So by clicking on the edit, you can create something that's rememberable. I chose, just because it's shorter, Jenny Harris Recruits, what it is and who I am. And fortunately, that was available. So if you have a very common name like Jenny Harris, sometimes you have to put more than just your name in order to.
Excuse me, Jenny?
Yeah.
We cannot see your screen. We are just seeing the title page.
Oh my
Not moving at all.
goodness.
All the you are
Okay.
talking.
I am so glad you said something. Hang on.
You're welcome.
Okay.
If not, I could advance it if you want.
Well, let's see. What I'm gonna do.
I could advance it. I thought.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Why
I
don't you
just
do
thought you were
that?
talking off the first screen.
Yeah. Okay. So these, we talked about these. We can go straight to where we're looking at my profile page. Keep going. Okay, click. It's a little tweaked. Okay, so that's where I put my address, the way to reach me. Next. This is where you edit your visibility so that people can find you outside of your first degree contacts. Click. This is where you edit your URL so that you can get a URL that is not so cumbersome to use. Next. Here's an example of how I used it. This is what my email looks like. And it will drive people directly to my LinkedIn. And I use this for my professional and my personal email. Next. So this is about, that was about visibility. Now we're going to talk about how to increase your network. Why is that important? Because the number of people that you can see equals the number of people that can find you. In other words, if I have a network of 10,000 first-degree contacts, that gives me visibility. I don't know. They don't tell me anymore, but I'd say probably 10 million people on the network. That means 10 million people can find me. And it's all about, you can't be hired if you can't be found. I have a question. Is it safe to put your phone number on LinkedIn? I can tell you in the past I've had it and I've never had a problem. I would stick with email though. I think that's a perfectly fine way to do it. If you're really concerned about spam, and I've never had an issue, but if you are, change the symbol at to the word at, and the symbol dot to the word dot. The human will translate it and send you a message and a machine won't. But I've never had that be an issue. So here's some hacks for ways to increase your network. And I like the questions. So this is a screenshot of my LinkedIn from the homepage. If you connect, click next. Oh, this isn't working well. Ron, hang on a second. I have my tech support here. I'm gonna drive because all your screen is skewed a little bit, and so the circles and that stuff is not exactly where it should be. Let me find out why. I'm gonna share. Can you allow me to share? I've got the host has disabled it.
Okay, I'll stop share and just share.
Okay, so let's see, share. Oh, it still says host has disabled.
No, you should be able to share at the bottom.
Everyone, this is my husband, if you can see him.
Hi,
This is Steve.
try again on share screen. No, it's still not there yet.
It's still not there yet, Ron.
Okay, I'm not sure why. Then I guess we'll just have to you know.
Yeah, we'll have to have you do it. That's okay. We'll make it so. Okay. All right. Thank you, love.
No problem.
Okay, so if you click that top red circle, is supposed to be on managing your network. That's where you'll get this page. And if you click on contacts, it will, well, first, if you do managing your network, you will see here different events that you can join, and you can see a link of people that you've worked with in the past. So here it says at the bottom one, people you may know from San Jose State University, where I went to school. Or it will say, if you scroll down further, the companies I've worked for and people that listed their time at the same location as mine. In other words, if you don't put down that you went to San Jose State, it's not going to give you people who went to San Jose State at that same time. If you leave a company out, let's say you worked there 20 years ago and it's not on your LinkedIn profile, then you won't find those people. Okay. So now I'm going to click in the next screen where it said contacts. Here is how you can add people that are from your email into the system. So what you do is you go into where it says add more contacts. It's near the top. Add contacts. And then it will take you to this screen that's in yellow. It says, see who you already know on LinkedIn. You give it permission, your address on Gmail. Click continue, and then you'll get the screen that's on the top here. And we can go through and say, oh, here's people that I might have worked with in the past that I want to invite to my network. So it doesn't automatically add them to your network, but it makes it so that they can tell you whether those people are already in there, and that saves you from having to hunt and peck to see who you know if they're in the system already. Does that make sense? I'm hoping that you followed that. Okay, next. Oh, this is where you add the more contacts. Next. Here's where I'm showing that it's my Gmail. Next. And so this is what you get after you do those 2 steps. And here I went, oh, look, click. Next. Here's somebody, Mark Lowry. I know Mark. I can click on Mark and then add connections, and it will send him a message. So it makes it easy peasy for you to build your network very quickly. Any questions on this?
Jenny,
Yes.
I thought I was going to wait on this question later, and maybe I should bring it up now because you're clicking on Mark Leary, who does not have his profile picture shown. I've got a thing about pictures. I mean, I prefer to see the picture of the person. And I know that some people, for whatever reason, do not put their pictures in their LinkedIn profile, but I'd like to get your thoughts on that.
I typically wouldn't either. I just use that as a random example. Mark Lowry happens to be the husband of a friend of mine, so I went, oh, why not use him? But typically I wouldn't. And we'll talk about that in more detail further in. Because I think that's a good point. You want to connect with people who are going to be most helpful to you and willing to connect with you, and people who don't have full profiles probably aren't. I see that I have some chat questions.
So a question about what would you suggest to put for your unique URL?
I usually put down my first name and then something memorable. So what you do, if your last name is unique enough, you can just put your name. You can put your tagline, whatever you want. I would just keep it simple. The shorter, the simpler, the better. Whatever your elevator pitch is, that might be, something that you might use. I hope that answers the question. Okay, let's go to, I kind of tipped my hand earlier, but who knows what a lion is? A lion is a LinkedIn open networker. What does that mean? You can click, please, Ron. It's somebody who has stated that they will connect to people even if they don't know them. Why do people do this? They do this because they want to build their network quickly. These are often people who are in sales. These are people who are recruiters. These,
I told you to.
I'm sorry?
Connect.
So if you don't mind being muted, that would be great. Thank you. Okay, go right.
Oh, okay, it wasn't geared towards me. Um, so this is a way that I have built my network very quickly in a foreign area. Let me give you an example. I used to recruit for Hong Kong, Singapore, and Tokyo. And I had no network in that area. So what I did to start out is I would network with Lions in those areas just to start connecting with to find people in those areas. So this is a really good thing to use if you're looking to relocate and you want to start building a network in a new area. If you're targeting somebody in a particular industry because you're making a transition, or a particular company, you can do the search Lion and the name of the company or the location, and those will be people who have a lot of connections that will begin to give you some visibility. There is a question here, are these 1, 2, or 3 people? I'm not sure what that question
I,
is.
I think what he's mean, can you layer your contacts of making your contacts in lists and sub lists?
You're either in or you're not in. Now, if he's talking about a first level degree, a first degree, a second degree, when you do the people search, I'm assuming that's what his question is, and they connect with you, they all become first degree contacts.
Okay.
So next. So we talked about this already. Okay. So, okay, Jenny told me, put Lion in your search criteria. And so if you didn't know any better, you would think that all you need to do is put Lion in the search. Let's see, Tracy, customizing your URL may take a few drafts, but you can always change it if you want. Yes, absolutely. It's always able to be changed. What can second and third degree contacts see on your profile? Whatever you set your visibility to, that's why I said in the beginning, you want to make your visibility as open as possible. So I think the default is that they can see your first section, the about, but possibly not your jobs or whatever. I don't remember what the default setting is anymore. It's been a while since I've taught that far back in setting up a profile. But you set that up. That's part of what you do in your profile. So go to your settings and make sure it's as visible as possible. I was wondering why so many people at Lion, a Japanese name. Oh, now you know why Lions are on there. Okay, so if you put in Lion and you hit go, hit next, please. Well, I thought there was go back one slide, please. Oh, here we go. So yeah, you get all of this stuff at the bottom where you've got this guy works at Lion grocery store. This one works at a software company called Lion. This is at the Red Lion Inn. That's not helpful. How do you make it helpful? Click on the all filters, which is next to the location. So now if you click that, next, you get filters. Filters are very helpful. We like filters. So now you can click on where they're located. In other words, you want people who are in the industries, you can click again. I think I have these highlighted. Please, Ron. On the location, on the company, on the industry. And that will eliminate a lot of that other, at a software company called Lion, if you're only looking at Lions that work in medical device. That's how you can narrow your search to find just the right people that you're looking for. Now, if you scroll down this search filter, next, Ron, please. Actually, it's here, but see where I've got contact interests circled? And underneath it says pro bono consulting or volunteering, joining a nonprofit board. I want you to be aware of this because this is one of those indicators that tells you how open people are to being contacted. So you can filter for that. I don't know that I would necessarily at first, unless you got a lot of people that come up when you do your search. But that's something you're going to watch for when you start looking at profiles. Okay. Any questions on this? I'm going to move on next. So now I'm going to talk about using groups. Groups are a great way to find people. It's a great way to get some visibility. And it's a great way to ferret out the people that you want to connect with. So next. Yes. So we're going to go next. So I guess the first question is, you know, do you want to join big groups or little groups? You want to join both. Why? Because big groups are going to give you lots of visibility. Smaller groups are going to give you people who are very in tune for what you're looking for. As a recruiter, I will join small niche groups because everyone that I'm looking for is either the candidate I'm seeking or know somebody who is. So if I'm going to start networking within a group, the closer I can filter to my intended target, the faster I'm going to find my candidate. So you can use those same ideas. So when you want to find groups, look for things like industries, schools. You know, this school has a really good engineering department, San Jose State, Cal Poly. You can search by those. You can search by companies. So I have been known to go after competing companies that have alumni groups. And then I asked to join, and sometimes, not as often as you would think, the question comes up that says, looking at your profile, I don't see that you were ever an employee at IBM. And I go, oh, you're right. I'm sorry. I didn't realize it was required. I will go away now. No harm, no foul. Meanwhile, probably 6 or 7 times out of 10, they'll just let me in. And that gives me a whole fishing pond of people who have the skills and interests that I'm interested in. So I would be as creative as possible to find the types of people that you want to network with. So when I'm talking about networking, I'm talking about not just finding the recruiters for the companies that you're looking for. I'm talking about you've targeted company, Boston Scientific, I'm making up something. Then you want to go, well, I really want to be an engineer in the R&D department at Boston Scientific, because Boston Scientific is down the street from me. So what you want to do is you want to start looking for engineers in Boston Scientific to make friends with. And so I might look for alumni of Boston Scientific. I might look for medical device engineering groups. I might look under, if I'm a mechanical engineer, CAD or whatever software that is being used, look for those user groups. All those are ways to find people that you might want to contact.
So Jenny, this is a question from Larry. Can you expand that networking paradigm to include interests and hobbies?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. That's a great way. So I know you're all going, all right, so I find these people, what do I say? We're going to get to that. So don't worry about that. We're going to just talk about right now groups and how to use the group. So click on the next one. I can't even see what that says. Oh, groups within medical devices. Okay, so click next. So here's an example of what some people do within the groups. This is something I've used to ferret out people. One of the things I ask my hiring managers is, give me a question that only the right candidate can answer. And then I post it on the board. And then I know who I want to chase. So this person says, how do you design power button circuitry for handheld battery operated devices? And then people who respond to this want to be contacted. This is where they get to show off what they know, and everybody wants to show how smart they are. So this is something that you could do in helping you find people to connect to. So you might put, I'm looking to transfer industries. I want to go from semiconductor to medical device. What suggestions do you have? Or who here has made that transition? And those are people that you're going to want to follow up with. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
I think we can go on to the next one. That's what I said. Okay, next. Here's somebody who posted a paper. Here's where you can, as I said, people like to show off. Here's where you can be seen as a subject matter expert. If you're really interested in a certain type of technology, maybe solar power or some green technology that's coming to fruition, some sort of scientific research, putting out papers and talking about new and interesting things about that subject is going to bring people to you and recognize your name. So that can be very helpful. And when people respond to that, those are people you want to contact. All right, so next, let's talk about, before we do the next part, what is networking and what it is not. Networking is not asking for a job. Why? Because people will run the other way. They do not want to be responsible for your job search. Networking is asking for others for small amount of their time to provide specific, definable deliveries. I have found that most people are willing to help as long as it doesn't take too much time and they feel like they can be helpful. So I'm going to give an example of this in the next slide. Wait, go back. Go back, I'm not done. 2 slides forward. But anyway, no, don't go there yet. But it's asking for things that people can deliver, that they can feel good about. They don't want to be responsible for your job search because, one, they don't know you, and it makes them uncomfortable because they don't know what you can bring to the table. But you can build relationships over time. Networking is not I need a job, I'm going to build my network and then abandon it. You've made your life harder by doing that. You want to constantly feed your network and it will serve you well. Offer to help others and pay it forward. So, okay, now we can go to the next slide, please. Things to check before you approach your target. This goes back to the question earlier. This guy doesn't have a face. Why would I want to contact somebody who doesn't have a face? Maybe because I know he'll accept because he knows me, even though he doesn't have a face on his profile. But you want to set yourself up for success. So things that I look for on a profile that I think you might want to as well. Check how many contacts does your target have. Typically, what happens in a lot of profiles is somebody sends, especially in the early days, they send a LinkedIn profile to somebody. They're not sure what it is. They accept. They go, I don't really want to do this. And so they never connect with more than one person. There's a whole bunch of those out there. Or maybe they only want to connect with people that they know, and they will have small numbers. The more people that they're connected to, the more likely they are to be open to connecting to you. How complete is their profile? People who want to be found will put as much information, keyword laden, as possible so that their profile comes up when a recruiter or anybody does a search. So people who have incomplete profiles or very little information typically do not want to be found. So I would tend to focus on people who have complete profiles. If he or she is posting articles, almost guarantee they're going to respond to your queries because they're trying to build their network. They're trying to be found. They're trying to seem like a subject matter expert, which they may very well be. Is he or she using groups? If they're not using groups, they're either very novice at LinkedIn or they're just connecting with the people they know. So that's a pretty good indicator. And you just get a sense for how accessible they are. How much do you have in common with this person is going to drive whether they're going to accept you or not. Question, in today's economy, how much networking by necessity is how to get the recruiter, have your resume provided to the hiring manager, recruiter HR is a roadblock. Sometimes recruiters are roadblocks. That's my job as a gatekeeper. And it's your job to make sure that the right person who can hire you gets it. So sometimes we're at cross purposes and that's okay. By necessity, is how,
Well, could I ask a follow-up question with that?
sure,
Gatekeeper, you were talking about white papers and having things that demonstrate your expertise. Wouldn't that get beyond the recruiter? Wouldn't some of the hiring managers be looking at that as well?
absolutely. And team members and subject matter experts within that group. Absolutely.
So it's just not going to the recruiter, it's being seen by a larger audience. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you'll learn things. So it's important not just for you when you're posting, but you're reading other people's postings. You may learn things that will make you more successful more quickly in your new industry.
So Jenny, can I ask a question? Also
Sure.
along that lines. So on your LinkedIn, if I had a great amount of connections, like in the hundreds, but my connections at this point are in other industries or just people that I've met along the way and within my network, just in another industry. If I post articles along that's relevant to my industry, that's the white paper that you're talking about. So that's going to make me more visible to a recruiter. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. And other people that might be interested in connecting with you. So as Ron said, hiring managers, members of that work group that are working with that technology are going to find you, so that when that water cooler conversation comes up and they go, we got this new project coming. Who do you know that knows blank blank? They go, oh, there was this guy on LinkedIn. I can connect with them, see what they know. Or they'll go, here's the person that I've been chatting with. Maybe he knows somebody. And the water cooler conversation's all virtual now. It is, but it's still happening. Trust me, it's still happening. We talked about approaching a target. Let's do some practicing. Let's go next. So here's an example I just happened to pull out. Would you connect with this person? Yes or no? And why? Okay, I'll feed it to you.
well,
Go
let's see
ahead.
what kinds of reaction we get. Any reactions? Who would connect with this senior talent person? Anyone?
Maybe if you're in the entertainment industry. Well, I'm in Burbank, so you might.
Brian says yes.
How
Craig,
come, Brian?
do you want to unmute yourself and why you would connect with this person?
From a networking standpoint, I mean, his profile looks, I can't see it all, but it looks pretty complete. Says what he does. He's got a picture there.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it's horrible. I guess it.
So I would connect with him. Why? One, he's a recruiter. Why not? Recruiters know lots of people and they're very helpful if they'll accept. He's got over 500 contacts. That's the maximum they list. He probably has in the thousands. Most important, we have 25 mutual connections. We know 25 people. 25 people we both know the same person. So there's a level of likelihood that I could say, I know so-and-so, and I would like to connect with you because this reason or that, Deluxe happens to be about 2 miles down my street. They're the ones who do the color for the film and the film processing. That's a target of mine, or it was. So I would contact with him and say, hey, I'm looking to get into the entertainment, because in Burbank, that's all there is. So I would connect with him because of the 25 connections, because he's a recruiter, because he has here, reach out to Sook, because he's willing to do volunteer and contracting, freelancing. This guy is as open as you can get. You know, he's probably going to accept your invitation. Click next.
Oh, you have a couple of questions that.
Oh,
Greg
okay.
has. I think she means accessible, not okay, not that, but Sayuri has, you can set a pool to gather answers of this type of question. Do you want to ask that question specifically, Sayuri, unmute and ask that directly to Jenny?
No, I don't think it's Jenny can the.
So
But
which,
there's a pool function, not poll function. So if you want to have, answer yes or no, people can put, the answer and show. Maybe that's the.
oh, you were asking a polling question.
I just gave it to you. It's not the question.
Oh, okay. I thought it was specifically question. Okay, sorry about that. And Mariella said entertainment industry photography, but we're not seeing his full scope. He might have worked in other industries as well, and that could be a clue too.
Right. I just pulled this little piece because when I am trying to decide who I'm going to connect with, and I'm spending 20 seconds, no more than 30, deciding who I'm going to bother to connect with, these are the things I look at.
And what looks to you to be mutuality? He had 25 mutual connections. That's quite a lot.
Yes.
How many is a tip off that, hey, this is very close to what I know?
One. You may both be first degree contacts with one very important person to both of us.
So it's not the number per se, it's also the context as well.
It's both.
Okay.
Now, I can tell you that these 25 contacts I happen to know are people that I don't know, that have just connected to me because I'm a lion or whatever. So that's not particularly useful. But if one of them was a former colleague of mine I have great respect for, you bet I'm going to leverage that network to connect with him.
Okay.
But his picture looks like someone who works. Yeah, well, it's okay. All right, so let's go to the next slide. So here's another way, here's another little sneaky hack. Here's another ad from, this is further down his profile. And you can see that he's posted an article on his profile. And what does that give you? It gives you an opportunity to connect with him without having to pay for a message or connect with him directly. So you can respond to, see how it says right at the bottom? I think this is, love this, congrats, all of that down at the bottom. That's a way for you to directly respond to him and get his attention quickly and with no cost. So that was the thing I wanted to point out. Look for these little ways that speed up your ability to connect with people and interact. Let's go to next. Now, would you try and connect with this guy?
any reaction from the group? Would anyone connect with this particular person?
I probably wouldn't. And why wouldn't I? Well, he's got 125 connections, so he's really not working it.
And Craig brings up a nonverbal thing. He has his arms crossed, which
Right.
shows not openness. That's interesting. Larry said he would connect with him.
And you may. I'm just saying the chances of him responding positively to you may be less. And so when you're looking at your finite time, this may not be the first person that you connect to unless you have something in common. Maybe you both have the same software background. Maybe you both went to the same school, or one of those people is somebody that you know. So I'm not saying don't. I'm just trying to set an example so that when you're new at networking and you're new at reaching out to people you don't know, that you're leaning towards people that are more likely to be successful and reinforce that new behavior than reaching out to people who are more closed or likely to be closed and turn you down. And I don't want you to be discouraged. Does that make sense?
I have a question related to number of contacts. I've heard lots of different numbers. If he mentions he has 125 connections, at what point do people in your mind get interesting as far as numbers of contacts?
It's a trade-off. So I'm balancing my time versus how close he fits the profile I'm trying to fill. So if he totally fills my profile, even if he looked closed, I would try and reach him. Even if he had one and an unfilled profile, I probably wouldn't, because I wouldn't know that he fills my profile. But I would go ahead and reach him. If I have a candidate profile I'm looking for, and I do a search and I find 300 people who have the right skill set in the right companies, then I'll probably go for the people who are easiest to reach, the ones that look most welcoming or have given me the direct contact information.
So Craig brings up a point that some recruiters, and I've heard this, say that you have to have at least 500 to connect. And I've had recruiters that they have a certain number that they're looking at to see how well networked you are. But you're mentioning that's not the case from your.
Well, what are you trying to accomplish? In my search, I'm trying to accomplish finding the right person who has the background and skills and interest in what I need, period. So why would I care how many people they have? If my goal is, and isn't that why we're on this tool? So, I don't understand why people would say, if you don't have at least 500, don't connect with me. That's just silliness, because they may have very useful information and just don't see a need to connect with people outside their industry. And therefore, they're just being very selective, but that doesn't mean they're not a good target. So
No, I hear you.
I don't know why people would do that. That seems kind of silly to me. And evidence that they don't understand how to best use the tool. I don't know. Okay, moving on. Next. So, okay, you found your target. And now what do you do? Here is a example of how to initiate a connection. So you can use your search function to find candidates that you think are going to be a good fit. And then you can send them this message to initiate a conversation. It doesn't matter what the words are. You can wordsmith this to fit your personality and style. What I did was pull out the key things that I want them to know. Things that are likely to be able to trigger their acceptance. So, hello, Paul, as a fellow Cal Poly grad. So, all right, we both went to Cal Poly. That's something that might trigger, oh, okay. Would you be willing to answer a question about how your company handles such and such? Okay, so now I know that we both are working in the same environment. We went to the same school. We have something in common. I have 10 plus years of experience and I work in this industry. So you're asking a specific question and you're showing them that there is value in connecting with you. We both have something that is mutually interesting to each other. That's probably going to get you an acceptance, or more likely to get you an acceptance. What you do not want to do is spam people and just send connects to people, just spewing them out, because what will happen is LinkedIn will track your percentage of rejects. And if they think you're a spammer, they will cut off your ability to connect with people unless you have their email address. So you want to make sure that you're being careful and thoughtful. The larger your network, then you can send more contacts and get rejected by a higher number of people because it's a smaller percentage of your whole network. So especially if you're new at this and your network isn't big, you want to make sure that percentage is small and really be thoughtful about who you try to connect with. Next. Oh, wait, do you have any questions on this? Is this
So,
helpful?
The same could be applied for a career changer. You're just trying to show commonality, but for someone who's going to change careers, there's got to be some sort of hook with and connection to the person.
Right, exactly. I really have an interest in this area that you're in. This is why I'm interested in it. This is what I want from you. I want to ask some questions about how you use this technology, how you, what you're doing in your industry. What are your thoughts on doing this versus that? Anything that strokes the ego or makes them feel like you're going to be interesting is going to be more likely to give you a successful connection. All right, next one. So, so once you've connected to this person, or maybe it's somebody that someone's given you, what do you do? What do you say to somebody that you don't know to start a conversation? So they tell you you should network with people in order to work your way into a company. But what do you say? So here's an example. I'm gonna tell you what it is that I think is important in this, and then explain to you why. So first, what do we have in common? In this case, biotech and pharma networking groups. Why am I interested in speaking to him? And I made this up. It can be any 3 questions, but I made this one up as an example. I'm interested in making a transition from semiconductors to medical device, and your background interests me greatly. Because in my mind, when I made up this candidate, they had that background. Would you be willing to take a 5-minute call to answer the following questions? And give them the 3 questions. This is my 3-question approach. And you have to write down what the questions are. Why? Well, let's talk about it. Okay, so first, they can be any questions. I just made up. What were the steps you took? What are the skills that were necessary? What are the skills that you lacked? Please let me know if you're willing to take a short call to answer these questions. Why is it important that you list the 3 questions? 1, it shows you're organized. I can't tell you how many times I get messages from people who say, I want to talk to you. I want to ask you some questions. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be a time sink. I'm not willing to do that. But if you tell me that you're organized, you send me the questions in advance so I can prepare for them, or I can tell you that I'm not your person, but I can direct you to the right one, then you're likely to get a positive response. So this is an example. It doesn't matter what the 3 questions are, but it does, it should be something that is a hook to get somebody to respond. Okay, so they respond. Go back for a second. So they respond, and you have the call, and you answer the 3 questions. What I want you to do is, in that conversation, try and learn something that's important to them. Maybe you learn that their child is in softball. Maybe you learn that he's reading about a new technology. Maybe she's going to a conference. What you want to do in your thank you note that you send back to them, give them something. Here are some tickets to, the ball game, or here is an article I thought you might find was interesting, or yes, I'm going to be at that conference too. Let me introduce you to so-and-so who's presenting. Something that gives them something back. And ask, who else should I be talking to? That gives you your next lead. Take that lead, do the interview, go back to the first person and say, John was great. Thank you for leading me to John. Who else might be a good contact? Let them know that you followed up with their suggestion. See if they have another one. Do that same thing with John. Thank you, John, for having that conversation with me. Here is some information I think you might know. And who else do you think I should talk to? That's how you build those tentacles into finding the right candidate. I don't know what I was going to say. So do you have questions for me on this? We're at the end. This is where you can link in with me. It will give you visibility. I will also forward messages to people, other people in my contacts, as long as they make sense. So don't ask the other person to do your work. But if you say, Jenny, please connect me with Pam. Pam has an opening I think I might be a good fit for, and why, I will forward it to Pam. If I'm trying to connect to somebody in this company and your contact works there, and this is why I'm interested, I will forward it. But if you just, spam me, I won't respond. But feel free to connect with me, increase your visibility, and don't hesitate to ask me questions if you have any. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Jenny. I particularly enjoyed your responses and intros to people. I thought that was very helpful, the 3-question approach. Any other final questions before we wind down? Before everyone goes, I just want to mention, some of you heard this, we're doing mock interviews next Tuesday, and we have a limited space for people. If you want to get a mock interview with someone next Tuesday, contact me in the next, no later than tomorrow. Sign up and contact me and send me your resume. And by the way, in a couple of minutes, I'll be sending over the deck of cards that Jenny has created. Any other, we'll entertain 1 or 2 questions.
Ron,
Yeah.
I want to get back to Jenny. I don't think we really got into the whole thing of what I mentioned about people preferably having their pictures on LinkedIn. I always put, I don't, the pictures aren't always that great, but I just prefer somebody with a picture versus somebody with no picture at all.
Yeah, I agree, but that's not my sole criteria. My sole criteria is, are they going to fill my opening? And I don't care if they have a photo or not. Now, I'll tell you that people who have photos are viewed. There was a statistic I saw, something like 60% more than people without. So yeah, if your goal is to be visible, you definitely need to have a photo there. But would I eliminate somebody because they didn't? Maybe, maybe not, depending on how closely they fill my profile for the candidate I'm searching for. Let's see. I'm looking to see if there are other questions. Is it okay to put an older picture? Well, when I was young, probably that sounds to me like I'm in my 50s and I want to put a picture in my 20s. No, I wouldn't do that. You want to put in a picture that people will recognize you when you go to a networking event. You want a picture that is inviting, that is professional, and that if I saw you at work, at an event, whatever, I would recognize you.
I was going to ask you a question as a recruiter, wearing your recruiter hat, Jenny. Is there something that tips you off or turns you off as a recruiter looking at someone's LinkedIn profile?
I'm sorry, I was reading and I didn't hear your whole question.
Is there
question again,
something as a
please.
recruiter, as you look at people's LinkedIn profiles, is something that turns you off, that you say, well, that doesn't feel right? What do you feel, as a recruiter, that are things that you shouldn't do, you shouldn't have?
Negative attitude. There aren't so many shouldn'ts as there is things that will push you to the top. And I just, something occurred to me that I think Larry needs to know is if I'm in LinkedIn Recruiter and I'm doing searches, they do not show me your profile. And that's really important for, EEO purposes. So if I'm in my professional hat and I'm searching not as Jenny the individual, but Jenny in my professional LinkedIn connection, I do not see pictures.
Hmm.
I guess that's part of and I don't want to know. I really don't want to know what you look like, whether you're old or young or black or white or purple, because I'm looking at your skills and whether you have the background information and ability to do the job I'm searching for.
So to your point, Craig's point then would not be a valid one if pics are going to screen you out and you as a recruiter won't see their picture, it wouldn't be visible to you.
Not if I'm in Recruiter while I'm searching. So a recruiter who does not have a professional connection would see it, but a recruiter that's using a corporate recruiter, LinkedIn recruiter tool would not see it.
But what would prevent you from just flipping the switch and going as a person, not wearing your recruiter hat, but just
I could if I really wanted to, but why would I want to? And I don't care if you're black, white, or purple, if you have the right skill sets.
Okay. So we'll take a final question and then we'll wind this down. Any final questions before we stop? But well, thank you for giving the full scope of how you look for candidates, how to expand your network. It's been very helpful and I appreciate that. Thanks again on behalf of Phase 2 Careers. Again, if you want mock interviews, that's coming up next week. And basically we have a program tomorrow, ask about your job search, and it's going to be very interactive. On behalf of Phase 2 Careers, thank you again, Jenny. And well, if anyone likes the program, of course, we welcome donations and welcome your support. Thank you all for coming today.